Hi folks, I hope you're well. So today I've deleted Instagram because we get the same crap with Instagram now as we have with YouTube and Amazon and anything else. They want you to pay to remove adverts. Even though there was never adverts, they've just put them on. They've just put them on because they know they can get you to pay to remove them. Because they know that adverts are blinking annoying. And to get rid of the annoyance, you pay them money. It is like in America, you had the mafia, and the mafia were basically going into shops and saying, we're going to come in, we're going to create a mess unless you pay us. That's what all these companies are doing. There was never adverts on YouTube, on Amazon, on these other places until they put them on there because they knew they could get people to pay. It's extortion. That's what it is. So, I just got rid of it and said no. Because again, that's exactly what it is, extortion. Yeah. They put the adverts on knowing that they're going to have people pay to get the adverts taken off. Funnily enough, I just got onto Facebook and found the same on Facebook. There's a message on Facebook now today saying, do you want to continue for free with no ads? For free with ads, or pay $2.99 for no ads. Come on. Facebook Marketplace is, adverts. Normal, it's adverts for cars or whatever you're looking for, right? Whatever you put in Marketplace, adverts. Normally for cars is what I look at. And then normal Facebook, adverts. Adverts for whatever people want to advertise. They're either selling stuff or advertising some company or whatever. But it's all blinking adverts anyway. And now they want to charge you $2.99, or they're going to put other adverts on the adverts. Ridiculous. It is insane. Right, okay, now on to a subject. Okay. Most people in the church, I'd say 99.7% of people in church, they believe it's impossible not to die. They believe that pretty much everybody is going to die. Well, unless the Lord comes back first. And it's not possible to change that. Well, that's wrong. Basically, that has to be wrong. The reason why that has to be wrong is because go and read Genesis, the early chapters of Genesis. You will see before they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they were immortal. Adam and Eve, immortal. Immortal means that they would never die. They had no death or decay in them. They only had death and decay because they started eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. We know that the early generations lived until they were hundreds of years old. Why? Because initially they were immortal. And so gradually that immortality faded. And people started dying earlier. But for generations, it was 200 to 300, 400 years of life before they died. Because they had immortality still in them. If it was possible to reverse immortality, is it possible, therefore, to reverse the curse of eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil? Has God made that possible? Well, he must. The reason why I say he must is because if we're supposed to be like Christ as the Son of God, absolutely and totally immortal. Now, people will say, yeah, but as a human, he wasn't. Yeah, But as a human, he was sent to die. As a human, he was still immortal until that was given up. And it was given up. It's the whole point, it was given up. I believe it is the case that he didn't need to eat, he didn't need to sleep, he didn't need to do any of that because he had no sin in him, so no decay was in him at all. Nothing of death, nothing of decay. So therefore, his body wasn't weak at any point in time. The only time his body was weak was after he was on trial and after it was already given that he would die on the cross, because that's why he came. He came to be the sacrifice. He came for his blood to be the blood covering for every single person. Therefore, he had to bleed. But before that, he was immortal. Well, if he had no sin, if he hadn't partaken of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, then, he was as perfect. Even though flesh, he was as perfect as Adam and Eve were before they partook of the fruit of that tree. And if we're supposed to be like Christ, there's no reason why, because we don't have to be sacrificed as an offering for everyone. That's been done. So we don't have to die on a cross. That's been done. So there's no reason we can't be like Christ before that, to be immortal. Of course, we have to stop eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil and start eating from the tree of life. So again, is that possible? Well, why not? We learn that there were two very important trees in the Garden of Eden. Those trees are still there. Most people in the world, well, I'd say 99.999999999999999% eat still from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Right? So, with that being the case, that tree's still there. So, therefore, the tree of life must still be there. And the fruit of that tree is still there for us to eat. Now, again, can I point to any example where that's happening? No. I cannot. But I believe 100% that it is possible. I do. I believe 100% that there are two trees and it's possible to eat from both. But, not eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that's difficult. That is difficult because we live in a world where everything in the world is about that. Really. Judging this and judging that and judging this and judging that. Especially now. The last 5 or 10 years has been more judgy than ever before. So therefore, very difficult not to eat from that tree. But it's not impossible. Can I say I'm partaking of the tree of life? I can't say that. I can't say I'm not. Because again, I don't know the evidence of it. I would assume the evidence of it would be is that all death and decay would leave you. But, don't know. Well, again, because we know if they were perfect in the beginning, if they were immortal, and then they ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and they lived for 400, 500 years, then obviously that decay and death took a long time to have the effect compared to now, because people don't live that long. People might live to 100, but they live to 5 times as long. So therefore, because of the immortality in them, death and decay took longer. Okay. Does that mean that immortality is under the same rules? No, I don't think so. I don't think immortality is under the same rules as death and decay. I don't think one tree is under the same rule as the other. Because I think the reality is, and again, what happened then and why, I don't know. I think, again, I don't know. I can only think. And I think, yes, I think the reality is perfection, when you have death and decay coming into perfection, then it's like you have paintings that were done 400 years ago. If those paintings have not been behind glass and protected, even behind glass, still protected, and cleaned on a regular basis, then obviously they would deteriorate over time. And I think that because obviously a painting originally was perfect, as that painting was. And we see now that paintings that were done years ago are obviously not as good, not as sharp, not as beautiful as they would have been in that time. But what if the original artist could come back and repaint over that painting? Would it be perfect again? Instantly. Well, to me, that's a tree of life. I think when perfection enters, death and decay will flee. But again, it's only a theory. I have no evidence to say that that is an absolute rule, that is the case. We know a very limited example in Genesis of perfection and what happened when, death and decay then entered those that were perfect, those that were immortal. But, yeah. And again, tell me, have you been in a church that would talk about that? I don't think most churches would talk about that. It's too deep. That's why I say you've got to go deep. You've got to go far, far deeper in your relationship with God and, to have your understanding deepened, shall I say, deepened, yes. So, yeah. I wish you well. I wish your understanding will be deepened, but that's up to you. I say to most people, they're waiting to die because they believe to get to heaven, you have to die. I don't believe that's true. But there you go. You take care. God bless. I'll speak to you soon. Be a blessing and be blessed. Bye-bye.